Yo, it's the Slang Man. This video that I have prepared here basically will sum up like a brief draft of my personal experiences with my time playing Call of Duty up to around the year of 2020. Alright? Yeah, this was a video I wanted to finish putting together years ago, and now I'm finally getting to it. So now, I'm going to start off with that I have quite a good amount of stories that I can share when it comes to Call of Duty. But for this video, I'm going to get more of straight to a particular point, which would be for you to see that I'm someone who used to be a big fan, but a lot of things have more and more turned me away over time. First off, the note, no matter how I feel about the multiplayer of any game, which is what I'm mostly going to be mentioning in this video, as I can recall, I, for the most part, have enjoyed each of the COD campaigns that I've played. As for the topics to go over, I could go over what I think about the past, thinking about how I've enjoyed the many playstyles that these past titles offered, reminiscing on using any kind of weapon to kick some butt. Like an example would be, it would be fun to sometimes find an unusual way with an unusual weapon to win a free-for-all. Like winning a gun in a round with just an RPG going boom! Now with the 2009 Modern Warfare 2, I think it made for my first experiences with the social aspects of online gaming. It didn't take long until I got a squad to play with, a squad with a kind of name that if I tell you right now, you'd probably think it's one of the funniest, unexpected names you'd ever heard. But what made it even better was that this squad was a dominant force to be reckoned with, on the rim. Be hopping on some days, getting on crazy win streaks, talking trash and knifing up whatever competition was in our way, making you feel like, dang, I just got beat up by a squad calling themselves this? Man, all in all, there's much more I could share talking about this squad, because I've had a lot of fun, memorable moments with them, some of my best that I can remember with online gaming. I got stories when it came to dropping nukes, like I was legitimately sneakily going in like Snake popping up out the bushes on fools. I got stories of enjoying the exploration of outside of maps and how later titles made it more difficult to do such a thing. I could go over the thought of wishing I knew about recording gameplay for a YouTube channel a lot sooner, cause man, that would have been something to be crazy. As for Black Ops 1, multiplayer had many great times. I could go over my love for some good old classic zombies, having me up all night like a zombie. I could go over how I feel that Modern Warfare 3 is my personal favorite, but I just may have a bias for it, being that it was the duty where I was able to be on top more consistently more than any others, and being on top of the lobby leaderboard, leading in stats majority of the time, had me feeling like I was that man. Which makes it feel kind of unfortunate that I didn't get to play this one, not even nearly as much as I'd like to. The reason for that would be, that's a story for another time. Although I felt that Black Ops 2 was overall great with a solid all-round multiplayer, I could go over on how I unfortunately didn't get the full experience, being that I've experienced a lot of issues with it freezing on me, especially with zombies where, for me, it made the mode unplayable. Which was very unfortunate because grief mode was like a favorite of mine. There was so much potential fun I could have had kicking some butt, or even ended up with my own butt kick. Like, I felt like it was that much of a fun mode, like, bring it on, yo! I do have a couple crazy stories with multiplayer, but I felt that those would be better for another video. Thank you for the free peacekeeper, keeping the peace, y'all, yeah! I could go over my thoughts on Ghost, where, looking back on it, I feel that it was actually okay for the most part, but it was during a time where you heard even more people complaining about getting the same kind of thing every year. But those same people probably didn't expect that they would get something so drastically different in the form of jumping around next year in Advanced Warfare, which, for a side note, I was never a part of those kind of complainers. As for Advanced Warfare, I could go over how it was more difficult for me to keep pace, so I more often tended to get my butt kicked. I have not much else to say about that. I could go over how the frame rate for the survival mode would drop so hard in high rounds, it would tend to freeze and crash my PS3, which made it harder when trying to get that trophy trying to flip the map, but that's for a separate trophy hunting story. A quick note to add, at a point I did go and buy COD4 and World at War, and I had some great times with that. Except World at War's damn grenade spamming campaign in hard mode, but that's besides the point here. It's all good. Now, the next thing to go over is, not too long after, I finally got a PS4. But something to mention with something to be put in perspective with the upcoming games, I had always hoped that the PS4 would have an option to disable the touchpad or something of the sort with certain games, because I have always had a bad habit of accidentally pressing it during gun battles, which becomes almost the equivalent of shooting blindfolded. So yeah, that's something to be put in perspective with my experience with any shooter game that uses the touchpad to bring up a menu on the PS4, which is quite a lot of them. Now, I can tell you about how I feel that Black Ops 3 was amazing for zombies and how much I've enjoyed it. As for multiplayer, it was alright. It was just not particularly my cup of tea with how fast I had to keep up. I could go over my thoughts on supply drops and how I feel it was rubbing me the wrong way how it was being laid out. I could go over my gripes for Infinite Warfare, but yet feeling like zombies were cool. And besides the paywall situation with COD4 Remastered, can't knock the hustle. I could go over how it was a fun reminiscent experience, but here's where some things didn't feel handled as right as it could have been, because I ran into some issues that were sometimes practically game breaking. See, usually with my experience, if someone lagged, in normal conditions that I know of, most of the time, they will be the one left at a disadvantage, making them more of an easy target to be shot. If the person that is lagging somehow has the advantage, I think that's a little suspicious. And I know that there was nothing wrong on my end, because at the time, my connection speed, my ping-a-ding-ding, was literally better than most of the people that I would play with. This in particular is like the biggest thing that turned me away from playing this game. Another thing to go over is how, for whatever reason, especially in game modes like free-for-all, in comparison to the old gen version, I felt like I had to try harder to come out with a win. And just to clarify, at the time, you might be surprised, but there were a lot of people still playing on the PS3, so I was able to get back on the original version afterwards, just to see if it was just me playing bad, you know, just to see if is my reflexes getting old or something. But nah, I had no problem feeling like I could do the run and gun thing and run away with a more dominating score, compared to the remastered where I felt like I really couldn't do that. Whatever was going on, I sure feel like I had to sweat a lot more for a win with all of these very close games. I'd like to know, anyone else ever feel this way, huh? I could go over the variety map pack, but for now, no comment, because I ain't buy it. But nah, forget that. With this, you could talk about how there being many remastered games that have came out with all of their DLCs, or about how it's $5 more than the original with just 4 maps. But really, the main issue is where I've heard more than enough people complaining about how buying this will have a negative effect on your matchmaking, like where it may take longer to search, or the DLC maps will even barely show up in the rotation for them. Which, when it comes to this kind of DLC, I don't doubt it. Now ask yourself, in these times, why would I pay to go through that, man? I was so disappointed because I had never played these DLC maps at all before, but yet buying them here didn't feel worth it. But one more thing, how through another new method of supply drops, new DLC weapons was added, but it wasn't that straightforward. It had a credit system where earning rates was extremely low, so low. Look at it like this. I put in 4 days of playtime and it still wasn't enough to unlock one of the DLC weapons that was added to the game, Except I got this bottle that's a melee weapon, which is also exactly like this bottle, different skin. A lot of these things I still can't even afford outright, man. It's ironic after they finally give a boots on the ground again, it feels like they decide to say, well, if you want it, you're gonna have to buy a bunch of COD points to buy our supply drops, and it still might not be enough money because you still might not have enough parts to get what you want. And I gotta again hear how people is enjoying hitting clips with the new guns, like, ooh, they're so good. You're again making people like me, a good paying customer, feeling left out. Do you dig? I could go over how World War II was, something that I felt was cool. I also felt that it was a lot more consumer friendly in comparison to other recent titles when it came to being able to get new weapons. Weapons that were not locked behind paywalls of supply drops, that would make you feel left out. It sometimes can make you feel sad, feeling left out. Feels me. It was kind of ironic that this year I was about to not buy Call of Duty, but an old friend of the squad had hit me up and convinced me like, yo, you gotta get on. And there I was enjoying it like, Anyways, I don't have much to go over on Black Ops 4, because I didn't really play it much, and I was already getting to a point at the time where I wasn't really feeling interested in Battle Royale modes. But anyways, as for Modern Warfare 2019, there are many things that can be mentioned, likable and not likable. Like for one, I was really hating the fact of having to be kicked out of lobbies after every game, being forced to find a new one. See, at this point, games only usually do that when it comes to things like ranked playlists. Oh, oh wait. Now, I'm trying to keep this as short as I can, so I'm gonna skip a lot of things that I did think about complaining about. So I'm gonna go right into sharing something that implanted an early impression on me, that I would feel would build up to be the foundation of the last straw with this game. Roll the clip.
Dude, why is this dude spawned?
You see what I'm seeing? Do you see what I'm seeing? I somehow warped through the stairs to end up being killed by my own claymore. I need an explanation. How does that work? COD4 Remastered has some bad lag, but this takes the cake.
Okay, but that's the last straw.
It ain't the same no more. Final note. Now, when it comes to other various topics, such as whatever other things that seem to be the controversial topic of discussions, like whatever other deeper rigged things that is going on in the background, including whatever problematic things I've heard in the newer titles that I didn't buy, it is what made me feel the feeling of not wanting to feel bothered to continue buying into being an annual participant. And I kinda don't feel the need to be someone to be going over the many details with these things, being that there are many I have heard who have already taken the time to speak on those things. Another topic of discussion in relation to liking the older titles would be nostalgia. My reasonings to touch on it would be because there are people that say those old games suck. They're not as good as what you think they is, you just stuck in the past, things like that. Well, so my response to that is, let the snack man break it down for you. In a short description, when you actually think about it, nostalgia is more based upon personal experience. So if you're someone who didn't like something due to not having a good experience, or never experienced what someone says they liked, understand that you are someone that may not fully understand it, if not at all. And I will repeat, and I'll add, that having the feeling of good nostalgia is more based upon having previous good personal experiences. And as for my experiences with this series, I've had plenty good ones, kicking some ass. And I think that maybe the many of the kind of people who use nostalgia as an excuse on why a game is bad are probably the same ones who go on the receiving end of getting their asses kicked. Like, sit and think about that. And with the times going back on my PS3, when I was able to find lobbies that weren't being unfairly messed around with, I have found similar reminiscent experience and success that I was actually hoping to be having. I guess, good on me. And with that, that's about that. And like I said what I said. And if I feel like taking the time out to go into any more details on anything I've mentioned, I possibly might. Side note, you can check out some of my old COD gameplay on my gaming channel. Ain't nothing crazy, but I do alright. A lot of that stuff was recorded in 2015 when I had finally got a capture card. And with that, I'd like to know what whoever thinks that has made it to the end of this video. If you liked it, like it, and you know what. If you want to stay tuned for whatever I post, Snag Man out.